Hello and welcome to the first formal interview with the new Deputy Commander Land Forces, Major General Ranald Munro. His job will be to take the Territorial Army into the future. Now, of course, one of the most significant aspirations of the Army 2020 concept was to grow the TA to a future strength of 30,000. It also has to be more integrated into the regular force, and an increase in funding must produce results. So many serious challenges now lie ahead for General Munro. But like most TA soldiers, he already has a demanding career outside of the Army and also a young family. So how will the new DCLF manage to successfully shape the Territorial Army as a part-time general? General, thank you for joining us today. Now, the role of DCLF, Deputy Commander Land Forces. You're the second person to ever hold that position. Of course, the first person was the Duke of Westminster. How important to the TA do you think the role of DCLF is?
I think it's extremely important. It's a real privilege to hold that position. It's important because it is a conduit, in my view, between cascading information down from the Army hierarchy into the Territorial Army, but also being a conduit for information back up to make sure that the decisions made in the Army headquarters are informed decisions based on what is possible and what is not possible within the TA.
This is a very important time for the Territorial Army. Now, the Army is used to the Duke of Westminster spending most of his time doing the job that you now do. But you're a barrister, you have a full-time job. How on earth do you expect the Army to take you seriously, bearing in mind the fact that you're just going to be a one-day-a-week man?
Maybe 1 day a week in the office, although so far it's about 2 or 3 days a week. But actually it's the output that you deliver that's more important rather than how much time you spend behind the desk. For example, I'm out every weekend pretty much visiting the boys and girls out on the ground and feeding those visit reports back into the Army headquarters. I think also that there's mileage in the fact that I am a reservist that is proving to the men and women of the TA that actually this can be done on a reservist basis with a job and a career, but also serving the armed forces as well. So I think there's a message there that it can be done in that way.
Now, it says here that you're a senior barrister, you're married with 2 young children, you fly planes and play golf. How on earth will you actually have time to be DCLF? Something's got to give.
I think if it's important to you, you find a way, and certainly everybody who serves in the reserves and in the Territorial Army will find a way. So if it's important to you, you will find a way of making sure that you can deliver what is required of you. And what it means for me is it actually focuses my attention to make sure I actually concentrate on those things that really matter rather than getting into details that perhaps are periphery. Unfortunately, if you ask my family, I suspect they'll say it's them that suffer rather than work or the TA. But it is difficult, and I won't deny that fact. It is difficult.
Now, one of your first jobs you'll have to do is to oversee the publication of FR 2020, the Green Paper. Can you just give us an idea as to really the headlines in the Green Paper?
The Green Paper really is about engaging society, not just employers, although they are a very important constituent of that, but it's society. If you read the FR20 report, it talks about setting up the TA to become part of the whole force, an integrated army. So not just a regular army with an add-on for the TA, but how do we deliver capability across the spectrum of regulars, regular reserves, TA, sponsored reserves, contractors and civilians. And FR20 is about how to do that. The Green Paper is about saying, okay, this is how we are doing defence. We're going to do defence differently going forward.
It's a discussion document in essence, isn't it?
I think it's hugely important to have that discussion actually on a number of levels. One, you're socialising the issues. You want people to engage, and that's really important, engage in the process so they feel their voices are being heard. So when there is an outcome, they feel that they are part of and own the outcome rather than things being done to them.
Is that just lip service though? You must have in your own mind how you want to shape this.
I think all of us have an idea of how we would like to shape it, but it will be informed by the consultation. Otherwise there is no point in the consultation. And you know what? Good ideas will come out of that, I'm sure, no doubt. That will help shape and maybe even change ideas and opinions.
Now, after Army 2020, the focus of Army 2020, or part of it, was a greater reliance on the Territorial Army. But how credible can a part-time army really be, especially as we now face very real and very different threats?
I think there's a number of facets to that question. Reality is, in a period of austerity, we can't afford the large standing forces that we have. So that's the bottom line. We have to do it differently. And I've heard the phrase in the past by a famous or infamous three-star general, pay as you go army. Actually, that's reality. If you're in business, where I am and I work in the city, you reduce your fixed cost, you increase your variable cost. So that's the reality of it. Credible, I think the TA are credible. We delivered on Gulf 2, we delivered on in Iraq, we're delivering now in Afghanistan, and we delivered on the Olympics. We've done everything asked of us and more, in my opinion. So I think we are credible now, to such an extent actually that there are regulars now who are leaving the regular army who are looking to come into the reserve, because it is much more now a credible organisation, more so than perhaps it ever has been. And it's true that in the past perhaps the training was not, and the resources weren't provided to the extent that it should have been, and certainly will be going forward. The resources will now be attracted to the TA because based on FR20 and Army 2020, we will have military tasks to which resources will be attributed, and therefore the training will be better, equipment will be provided, there'll be more opportunities to engage with the regular army, more integration.
Now, you mentioned, we've been talking about Army 2020. CGS recently said that he wanted to increase the TA to a strength of 30,000. How's that going?
We're on that journey. We're by no means there. The Army absolutely wants to get there. It has to get there if it wants to deliver capability. So the investment on the recruiting, marketing, training side is absolutely, the focus is absolutely there to get us to those numbers. It won't be easy, but it is absolutely doable.
It's all well and good the Army saying, we need to have this, we're determined to have this, but of course you have to convince people to join the Territorial Army. People who've joined the TA in the past have gone to Afghanistan, they've been involved in a real gritty operation. Of course, we're drawing down from Afghanistan, or will be doing soon. So after Op Herrick has ended, and where most TA soldiers who join now will not go to Afghanistan, what can you offer them?
The people we want to join the TA are motivated men and women, as we always have done. It is certainly true that up to now, operations both in Iraq and Afghanistan have been a pull for people. People are joining because they want to go on operation. And indeed, if they join now, there probably is still an opportunity to go for the time being into Afghanistan, for example. It isn't all about warfighting. As we draw down, we'll move into other type tasks where the TA can play a role in Herrick, in Afghanistan. But I think where you're getting at is if there isn't a big pull of a big endeavour like Afghanistan, will there be an attraction to join the TA? And my answer is absolutely yes. Good training, good challenging training, camaraderie, values and standards, but actually still the opportunity to engage with the regular army, be part of the whole force and do other type tasks, whether it's Olympic type tasks, homeland resilience, homeland defence, training teams in Africa, those sort of things will still be there for the TA going forward. So it isn't just all about high-end kinetic.
What about the employers? Now, I know that you're spending a lot of time thinking about the employers, because a lot of employers need a bit of enticement to take on people and then release those employees to defend their country when the balloon goes up. What are you going to do to entice employers to cooperate more?
That is the critical path to delivering FR20. If we don't get the employers on side and society, we don't sell that message and make them feel part that they're engaging in this new way of delivering defence, then we will fail to deliver FR20. And therefore, and if FR20 fails, Army 2020 fails, because we're such an integral part of it. How are we going to do that? There will be underpinning legislation so that TA soldiers and officers are not disadvantaged in the workplace. But it can't just be the stick, there's going to be a carrot, and it will be a kite mark, for example. The whole point of the Green Paper is to test these options. There is no answer. Maybe financial incentives for employers to engage reservists, not just when they're in operations, but actually there is a financial advantage even in a steady state. I think what we can't forget is this isn't new. Australia, America, Canada have done similar sort of exercises in the past, so there are lessons to be learnt from them as well.
Now, the redundancy schedule for officers and soldiers is not yet over, and indeed there are other redundancies, military redundancies in the pipeline. Now, I know that you're very keen for regular soldiers to move across to the TA if they're made redundant, but isn't that a bit of a cheek?
Yeah, I wouldn't categorise it quite that way. Clearly, being made redundant from any organisation is very, very tough, especially an organisation like the Army, where it is much more of a vocation than just a job. I understand that. But of course, the reduction in numbers in the regular Army was not predicated on a larger TA. The numbers were coming down, had to come down to balance the budget. And I know people say, well, the Army is not a business. Well, to the extent it has a budget, it is a business and has that discipline that it has to attend to. So the numbers were coming down. If you want to maintain capability, which we do, then you have to deliver it somehow, and that's where the reserves come in, to deliver capability. Now, someone leaving the regulars on redundancy, I suspect many of them will say, why would I go back to an organisation who's just made me redundant? I understand that. Hopefully, and the evidence we have so far is somewhere between a year, 18 months to 2 years, very often people having left then think, do you know, I miss that camaraderie, I want to go somewhere, do something different. That's when they may re-engage again with the TA. And that's certainly my hope. And we, the doors are open. We need the expertise. It's not just numbers. We need the expertise that the Army has invested in over many years, and we need that back into the TA to help us grow and make sure that in the future we deliver capability.
General Munro, thank you for answering these questions today. Before we go there, before we conclude, what messages would you like to leave us with today?
I think 2 clear messages, if I may. One, we are definitely into growing the TA. Capability will come later, but don't wait till there is absolute certainty, because that will take time. We're on the journey, we've crossed the line of departure, we need to grow the numbers now. The second message is the Green Paper is out there, and you heard me say earlier, the critical path to delivering FR20, and therefore Army 2020, is the engagement with society. The Green Paper is a huge opportunity, a fantastic opportunity to engage with society. So I'm encouraging all TA officers and soldiers, their employers, and anybody else who wants to engage in this process, so they're part of the final solution, if you like, to engage in the Green Paper, so we get the information sucked up into the Army headquarters, into defence, so we can help shape the TA of the future.
And we'll put a link at the end of this interview so that people can actually view that. General, thank you very much indeed for joining us today. Thank you.
Thank you.